Welcome to Austin Eras, where we explore Austin's transformation into a 21st century boomtown and the voices shaping its past, present, and future.
Welcome to the Austin Eras podcast. I'm your host, Adam Flagg, and I'm here today with another Adam.
That's right.
Welcome to the show. I'm going to talk about our guest here. Adam Powell is a civic leader, digital storyteller, and executive director of the Austin History Center Association, the nonprofit partner to the city's archival institution. He's a native Austinite, son of educators. He has a deep connection to the city that spans decades. He graduated from TCU with a history degree, where he helped establish the African American and Africana Studies minor. He also worked with the National Archives and the TCU Special Collection, sparking a lifelong passion for historical preservation. Adam's career included union organizing, tech leadership, and a bid for city council. He served in roles at the Texas Education Agency, KIPP, Texas, as well as a chief of staff in the tech sector. In 2023-24, he ran a grassroots campaign for Austin City Council District 7, personally knocking on 9,000 doors. 9,000. He now brings this energy to expanding the AHCA's community impact and digital footprint. He's a content creator on TikTok. He makes local history accessible to thousands of followers. What's your handle on TikTok?
The personal handle is Adam Powell ATX. Though I encourage folks to follow at Austin History, where now that's where most of the videos are.
All right, so we've got both. Under his leadership, the newly renovated Austin History Center reopened in the historic Falk building just recently, last month in December 2025. Adam lives in the Shoal Creek neighborhood with his wife and their close-knit circle of lifelong friends. He's a Green Bay Packers fan. We'll have to get to that later.
Lifelong Packers fan.
An Austin FC supporter and a proud advocate for Austin's cultural preservation. Welcome to the show, Adam. Never had another Adam on the show, so this can be confusing if we start shouting out our names. But I'm excited to have you here.
It not only is it a great name, it's also the first name. So it's rarefied air. We're
right
here, right?
If you're not first, you're last. So I feel like we're the best here. So I really am excited to have you on because we've had some other guests. They've all said, hey, you got to get Adam Powell on. Adam Powell has to be on the show. And I think what's really interesting in kind of researching and looking into your past and who you are today is that you've evolved under a couple different places and done different things in your career so far. And you settled in this history space, which I think is like, it's kind of an uncut gem. It's kind of a hidden gem in the sense that I don't feel like Austin, as focused as we've kind of become, it's blown up as we've become the last couple decades. People aren't talking a whole lot about old Austin history. And you not only did that, but you started doing that on social media.
Yeah.
So how did this all happen?
It has been a winding road, as you said. And before I even get into that, I just want to thank you all again for having me. With folks like Gay Gaddis, Matt Curtis, my friend Jose Velasquez, I'm like, It's just honored to be in the same space that those folks are.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
But, when it comes to the history and the winding path of my career, there was no grand plan. There was no roadmap. For me, it was just following passion to passion and finding the ways that they link together. And when it came to the history, something I'm almost a little ashamed to admit, but just being honest, when I got my history degree at TCU, I did not dig into local history at all. I couldn't tell you about Austin history. I couldn't tell you even about Fort Worth history up there. I was digging into early American history, Latin American history, larger scope. And so I had this moment when, moved back to Austin, did from TCU and then 1 year in Boston, which was not for me. I came running back to Texas as soon as possible. And as I reestablished my roots here, I kind of just realized I wanted to know these stories. I wanted to know why the street was called this. I wanted to know why my neighborhood in North Shoal Creek existed. Why, Leander, the suburb that I grew up in, why does Leander exist, right? And as you start pulling on those threads of local history, I just found that was the most energizing thing I had done, personally, professionally, period. So honestly, the social media side of it was completely incidental too. People don't believe me when I say this, but I actually started social media just to build the skill set of, let me not hate my face and voice on camera as much as I did back then, and I still do, but not as much as I did back then. And as I was doing research in my personal life about these history subjects, I said, you know what? Let me make a few videos about this.
I love it. We're going to go into that in a little bit more. I want to talk more about that. But I also want to rewind back to your personal history. You're a native Austinite. You grew up in Leander, as you just mentioned. What are some of your memories of Austin as a child? What does old Austin look like in your mind?
See, I feel like I have a somewhat unique perspective, but a perspective that's becoming less unique as Austin's grown and expanded. So I was born in Austin again, St. David's Hospital. I'm always asking folks, are you a Brackenridge? Are you St. David's kid? You know? And within the first year or so of my life, my parents moved up to Leander. For a reason that's becoming increasingly common, it was for cost of living. It was recognizing, you know what, that's a place they could get a mortgage, they could raise me and my siblings. And at that time, my dad was finishing up his career at UT as a professor and transitioning into what I grew up with him as a middle school teacher. And my mom was a lifelong SPED educator, SPED teacher, as well as SPED diagnostician. And so my memories of Austin are like very real and visceral, but also kind of fractured. Most of my memories, of course, are in Leander, turning from that town out there, or as I like to tell folks, a town that used to not have a Starbucks, where you can now see a Starbucks from another Starbucks.
Yeah, you can.
And seeing the growth from that perspective. But my memories of coming to Austin tend to be like really core, kind of old Austin, but stuff that I think is still there today. Going to the Bullock on field trips, seeing the symphony orchestra, going to the Irwin Center to see UT basketball, walking around UT's campus and the Turtle Pond.
Yeah.
Very kind of core things like that. And maybe my favorite memory from growing up, I always like to bring up, was that fateful night in January of 2006 when the best football game of all time happened. It just is. UT, USC in the Rose Bowl for the national championship. Vince Young, the fourth down scramble. And I remember two main things about that. First off, that night, UT wins the national championship. The tower gets lit up orange. Literally, we got into a minivan that late, drove to downtown Austin from Leander to see the tower get lit up, and people were partying on the streets, and it was just amazing. I was in elementary school, but it was just a spectacle.
Yeah.
And then the next day getting to school, and most of the kids were like, wait, we won the national championship? UT was down by so much that a lot of kids just went to sleep. So just, it's very core foundational stuff, and I think I'm a little unique in that when I look at Austin today, I still see so much of what I grew up seeing and holding strong because it's stuff that's just foundational to what the city is.
Yeah, no, I mean, and those kind of memories, that January 1st, 2006 is something that unites a city.
Absolutely.
And I don't think the city gets that many chances to do that kind of thing. And that's a memory that's going to stay with you. And it's been 20 years as of very recently since that happened.
That's right.
It's crazy.
Well, and even for me, it's like, I went to TCU. I didn't end up being a, full-on, lifelong UT football fan, but you can never replace what Vince Young and Mac Brown and Colt McCoy meant to me growing up.
Those guys are legends.
Absolute legends.
They can be on all the pain commercials in Austin that you need, and they're going to keep selling ads.
It still gives me goosebumps. Seeing them on the pain commercials, I'm like, those are the guys.
So, I mean, you grew up with educator parents. Sounds like your dad had an interesting career as a professor at UT, then a middle school teacher.
Very much so.
Tell me about kind of how they helped shape your view of public service and leadership.
In every single way. I mean, it was just fully foundational to my worldview, to how I try to navigate throughout my community. And what I say is just my parents are my heroes, right? Yeah. My dad passed a few years back, but he was a trailblazer, especially as a black educator. Mm-hmm. He got a PhD in the 70s. It was real difficult to do so from the University of Chicago, and he grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
He taught at some of the best institutions in our country. He taught at Yale. He taught at UT. He had a stint at Houston Tillotson doing some work there. And middle school teaching was his retirement plan, which as an adult, I recognize how wild that sounds to say. Mm-hmm. Not a walk in the park teaching 6th, 7th, 8th graders. But, he had that long career, and settling down in Leander with me and my siblings was the middle school teaching side of things. And then my mom, too, she started as a SPED teacher, worked as a diagnostician, helping parents and students understand what needs their kids had and how to help them succeed. So what I always say is I'm like, look, if I could do 10%, maybe even just 5% of the public service that my parents did, that would be everything. My mom's retired now. Again, my dad's no longer with us, and I just look at the absolute decades, something like 70, 80 years combined between the two of them, impacting tens of thousands of students.
Yeah.
And my path hasn't been as a teacher, but it has been, how am I giving back to my community that way?
Well, speaking in that realm, I think history is one of those subjects that either kids really flock to or they run away from. And it sounds like you ran to it, and you were more interested in that kind of broader study of, old American history or Latin American history. What do you think drew you to it, and how can we draw more students to it here in Austin to really care about the history we have here?
Well, honestly, I think this is a personal perspective, right? Not speaking on behalf of anyone or anything. K-12 history actually didn't engage me very much.
Oh,
frankly.
Okay.
So, I think back to especially like high school history, where you're memorizing a bunch of key terms and dates and people and places and events, and that didn't grab me for the most part. Mm-hmm. I had, my world history AP teacher, Beth Duncan. She's still up at Vista Ridge High School, and I saw her last year, and she's doing wonderfully. She was one of the few where it's like she got into the empathetic exercise of history, putting yourself in the shoes of someone in an entirely different time and place and world, but still recognizing they're human just like us.
Yeah.
And they made decisions and operated off of that basis. She did that for me. And, no problem with any other teachers I had. I think it was more a curriculum thing. That wasn't usually the case. So really, that I ended up doing history in college was super incidental. I started as a music major, flamed out after 3 semesters, and literally one day walked on campus and was like, you know what? Kind of thought history was interesting. Let's just go for it. And then I found in college, it was focused on that empathetic exercise. So, early American history, this totally changed how I looked at history. I had a class with a professor talking about the good wives of New England, right?
Okay.
And so we're talking like wives of pilgrims. And these are folks who, at that time, there's basically no written record of. In terms of, very limited journals, very limited, periodicals or anything. So it's kind of, these were people that existed, a large demographic of people, and there's almost nothing to find out about them. And I remember a class where we reconstructed the life of one specific woman in New England based off of the floor plans of her house and what was in her larder and in where her fireplace was, and was able to reconstruct, okay, her husband died early and she set up a shop out of the house, and she had so much supplies in her larder that she was definitely selling goods to the whole community to make it as a widow with a bunch of kids. And suddenly you get the story of like, no, she was an entrepreneur. She was like breaking societal norms in this place and time. And I remember that so specifically. That was one class, one day. And after that, I was like, this is what history is about. And I think if we show kids and young adults and folks moving to Austin that history, what does this mean for this person, this place, and time? What does it mean for you? What is the space you're occupying, and what has it meant throughout time? Then I think we get people on board.
Yeah, it's almost like a living history, a real documentary of what happened to those people and living in that time. So tell me a little bit more about TCU, because you went there, you got your degree, and you actually helped establish a minor or an actual program at TCU. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that was, so again, winding road. There was no playbook for any of this.
Yeah, no. But that's great leadership, though, is to go, hey, I'm interested in this, I'm passionate about this, and I want to go help make this better for the rest of the world. That's essentially what you did at TCU.
Yeah, I look at it as a thread throughout everything we're going to talk about in my career path is just being surrounded by great people, right? And feeling times when I felt I wasn't surrounded by the energy I needed to be surrounded by, and just turning quickly and doing something else. And TCU is the best example of that. Man, I came in on a music scholarship. I was a drumline, marching band nerd. Had done a Drum Corps International and toured over the summer, and had done a bunch of that stuff.
Okay.
So I thought all I was good at was music, and all I was good at was drumming. 3 semesters in, I realized, boy, not as good as I thought I was, and also just wasn't loving the structure of that specific program and department. again, kind of arbitrarily picked history at that time. I was like, you know what? I want to do some liberal arts thing. History seems like the play. And then it just continued to weave throughout. Immediately, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a middle school history teacher. Realized, that's not my path. Okay, I'm going to be an academic, get a PhD. Didn't have the grades for that. Didn't know that I wanted to see that side of it through. Dropped that. And then at the end of my junior year, I took a civil rights bus tour class through the history department with an absolute mentor, amazing person, Dr. Max Krochmal, who now he works over at University of New Orleans, I believe. But so in that class, we spent our whole spring break going to civil rights sites in Tennessee, going throughout Texas, going throughout and just learning and immersing ourselves into this history. And a project that we were asked to do was, hey, come up with something that would impact Fort Worth or TCU or the community. Me and 2 other students came up with an idea of, you know what? We don't have any black studies at TCU. At the time, there was no African American studies. So we just came up with a mock curriculum based off of classes that were already there, and said, you know what? If we were going to do the studies, minor or major or something, here's what we'd do. Didn't really think much of it. It was a class project. And then that was also at a time when Baltimore, when the protests and the national conversation was surrounding there. And basically the small amount of black students at TCU at the time, I think we were about 3 or 4% of the university, we got together, said, you know what, we need to do some sort of protest or something in solidarity with what's going on in Baltimore. And I'll never forget it. We were in a lecture hall at like 12:30, 1 a.m., night before said protest, planning it out. And we're like, okay, we're going to talk about the importance of this and this and this, but what are we going to ask for? And I'm in the back of that lecture hall. I kind of sheepishly raise my hand, and I'm like, hey, me and a couple of those students made a mock curriculum. Maybe we should ask for that. Maybe we should say, hey, we should have a Black Studies minor. And that single moment transformed the entire trajectory of my life and career. Just that moment. So we had a protest. We had a bunch. The chancellor showed up. The administration showed up. 200-300 people. Got local news coverage. I spoke at that event, which was probably the first time I realized I had some sort of gift for public speaking. And then that started the process of what would be my whole senior year of advocating for and eventually getting the African American and Africana Studies minor. And then pretty shortly after I left TCU and graduated, comparative race and ethnic studies came up as a department as well. Nice. And now the political landscape has shifted. The classes and the professors and the admin are still there. Those departments are looking different now. But to recognize that I could be a part of making that change with great students, great professors, great community figures there, that was everything.
That was amazing.
Yeah, but again, I just say I don't think I did anything exceptional as an individual. I think I was passionate about something and surrounded by people equally passionate, and the stars aligned. And another stars aligning part of that too, that I always love to say, my wife was at that protest, and that was the first time she ever saw me.
Really?
Yeah. And I didn't meet her that day. We would meet almost a year later in a political science class, and then 10 years later, we've been married for a couple years now, like...
That's crazy.
But the first time she saw me was speaking at a protest. I'm like, good thing I give good speech that
It's
day.
amazing the kind of impact you can have. You have no idea until later. But I think the themes that have come up so far in our short conversation has been that you've found things you're passionate about, you've gone deep on them, you've learned, you're trying to become the expert, try to really get good at something. Oh. And then what I heard you say earlier was, if it didn't really fit the energy that you wanted, you moved on. So union organizer, educator, tech, campaigner, done a lot of things. I want to talk about the campaign thing, because you took this whole like city thing, I love Austin, I've been here a long time, to I'm going to run for office. Running for office is its own little animal, and that is a lot of work and a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, I'm sure, went into that. Tell me what running for office looks like in Austin, just for those people out there that are curious if they'd ever want to consider it, or just simply the curiosity of what it takes.
Well, first and foremost, I'll say, for anyone watching this, if you want to run for office, I want you to run for office. Reach out to me, talk to me. I want to be a resource. First and foremost, I have to say that.
Thank you.
Because it is a really, really amorphous, vague thing to do. There's no playbook for running for office, period. And certainly no playbook for the very unique, specific things for running at a city level. And every city in the country is different. Different form of government, different timelines, different political norms, players, everything. So to rewind a bit, as you said, winding career path, came out of college, did the union organizing, recruited teachers, did some tech sector stuff, government stuff. And throughout all of that, I guess I felt I had some sort of propensity for the systemic change. Again, going back to TCU. I saw a void alongside a great community of students and professors and mentors and said, you know what, we can do this. And people who know me know there's nothing I love more than Austin, other than my wife and my mom and my dog. Other than that, Austin is number one for me. The love of this city and community that made me. And also just a love for local government, honestly. So I was looking at it as, I think most folks right now feel a lot of fatigue with the national or statewide conversations. Wherever they lie on the political spectrum, it's exhausting.
But the city's different because there's no party system attached to when you're running for city council.
Exactly. Well, yes and no.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, I would say on just an issues-based thing, what I saw in union organizing, for example, was it cut through political spectrum, right? When we were organizing on the Brandeis University campus, graduate student assistants, we were basically saying, hey, you can come together and you can make more money, right? We weren't saying Democrat, Republican, this person, that person. We were saying, hey, here's how you can get more money, better benefits. And what I found at City Hall is it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, childcare is extremely unaffordable. What can we do systemically to fix it? We're having flooding problems. What can we do? We need to stabilize our energy. Anywhere you look at City Hall, it's really issues focused, right? It's not this partisan firefight that you see at the state and national level, and that's where politics are now. So for me, I found it was energizing instead of exhausting. And that more than anything else was like, you know what? I'm going to jump into the community. I'm going to do this thing.
That's the easy part, is saying yes. The hard part is actually running the campaign.
Yeah, that was tough. Well, and frankly, I'll be the first to say I was basically at zero name recognition. I had people who had seen the TikToks. I think at that point it was over 2 million views cumulatively on that. But that's specific demographics, specific groups of people. In Austin, of course, there's the 10 city council districts, about 100,000 people of each. So I knew too, I'm like, what are the odds that people who are watching my videos are also registered voters in the specific subsection of North Austin?
Yeah.
So I approached the campaign from that level. I was like, you know what? No one knows me. No one has a reason to know me. But I'm going to speak honestly about my experiences. I'm going to go out, like you said, knock a ton of doors, hit a little over 9,000 doors, and just really threw myself at that and just connect with people. And the first thing I would always say to every voter on the campaign was, what matters to you? What's important to you? Because at the city level, again, the energizing thing is you can hear that from someone and you can find a policy way to fill in. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But also on the voter side, one person could find 10 of their friends, go testify at City Hall, and legitimately impact policy for 1 million people in the city.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Representative politics. I mean, that's...
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was that experience like? You're knocking on doors, you're talking to these people, and then you're trying to get name recognition, trying to build that. What were the lessons you took away from this thing, from doing it? I'm just curious, because it's I've had a couple friends do it, and I feel like it's running for office is kind of a thankless job, and only a few people win, and then the other people don't. I mean, would you ever do it again?
I would say probably not anytime soon. I'm leaving the door open.
Yeah.
But what I said throughout the campaign, and people thought I had like a political angle on this. It wasn't. I was like, I never want to run for Congress. I never want to run for ledge. And afterwards, people were like, okay, so you interested in this ledge seat? And I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm just a local guy, right? I would say the one piece of advice I got that permeates all of my thoughts looking back at the campaign was that, a lot of people will say, oh, voters are dumb. Undecided voters are dumb. They're stupid. They don't know what's happening. I always hated that. I think that's a very belittling way to talk about your community and people like you. But a great piece of advice I heard was voters aren't dumb, they're busy. So you need to make them care about something, but they care about picking up their kids. They care about doing their laundry. They care about paying their bills, managing their mortgage. That's what they care about. And when I put my experiences, and I think the experience of anyone running for office, into that framework, those were my biggest takeaways. So to put it bluntly, it is hard to get people to care about local politics. Not because it doesn't impact their lives, but just because it's so easy for them to plug into national or state compared to it.
That's true.
You know, like, for example, James Tallarico has raised $15 million. That is a lot of money. He might have even raised more than that. That is a ton of money to do text messages, to knock a ton of doors and hire people to do so, send out mailers, social media ads, everything. It is not hard to learn about the U.S. Senate race. Then, you know, some legislative campaigns will have hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? My campaign, we had $65,000. And I'm very proud of that, but that just means you have less means available to get your message out.
Yeah.
And, speaking honestly, how many people do you know that could, off the top of their head, say who their city council member is?
Unfortunately, the answer is low.
It's low, right? And again, I hear a lot of people become bitter about that. And they're like, voters just don't care, and this impacts their life, but they just, whatever. And I'm like, no, that's not the way to feel about it. They're busy. They're busy. So what I learned first and foremost was that mindset of just the importance of getting folks to dig into and learn about local politics was the number one thing. Even before getting them to love me as a candidate or vote for me. Just to get them to understand and see and educate, right? And then I think the other thing that I learned was, and this is, I don't want to say my bitter reflection or the maybe the more negative reflection. Let's say that.
Everyone's going to have one. Okay.
We got to. Is I felt throughout my campaign I could take it just on that level. Just talk about local politics. Just talk about Austin energy, Austin water, land use development, that sort of stuff. But what I saw other candidates do more successfully than me was to take the national issues or the state issues that everyone cared about, and then to tie that into the local.
Yeah.
I was like, ideologically, I didn't want to do that. I look back, and I think that was a little naive or just not the right strategic choice. I think you have to use the things that, again, a Tallarico or a Jasmine Crockett or whoever, right, is spending millions of dollars to put out there.
Yeah.
And use that as the hook to get your message out there. And I think it's very, very, very difficult. It was super difficult for me to take it just on the level of local politics. You got to meet people where they're at.
I also would say that the challenge has to be, if the media is not going to heavily cover what you do, then it's really hard for your message to get out there anyway. So Absolutely. In a crowded race, if there's 4 or 5 people, the question is who has more funding and who already has name recognition.
That's exactly it. Well, and in my race, there were 6 total candidates. And I don't blame local media for it at all. Like, you know, you've met local journalists, you've talked with them. They are busy people. They're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for the passion.
Yeah. And
they're doing an essential, irreplaceable service for our community. And that means, you know, there was a District 10 where Mark and Ashika were running.
Yeah.
That's 2 candidates. They got a lot of coverage because, speaking just in terms of the nuts and bolts of it, the reporter just had to go talk to 2 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you talk to 6 people and they got a deadline coming up in a few hours, they're not going to write as much about the 6-person one. And frankly, like, you know, in my race too, all of us were Democrats, right? Mm-hmm. So it was hard to find differentiation. And so me, in the weeds of the campaign, I was like, man, we're super different. We all have very different policy ideas and different backgrounds. But what I kept seeing in the media, and I don't blame them for this, was these candidates are kind of all the same. And I totally get where that comes from. I think for folks who are interested in running locally, you have to just anticipate, like, it could be easy to think I'm going to declare as a candidate and I'm going to be in the Statesman, the Chronicle, and this and this and this.
Yeah.
You got to create your own message delivery systems.
Let's talk about today. Let's talk about where you are today, because I think this is really interesting. So you said the Austin History Center job was a dream come true for you. Was there a moment this happened for you that it really hit you that, hey, I've got this job. This is what I've really been building toward. This is what I want.
I would say the first time I saw the job posting, honestly. So I, had the campaign, I lost, was hoping to make a runoff, didn't make the runoff, and I'll say another thing that nothing ever prepares you for, and I've heard this from every level of running for office. You spin up this whole infrastructure, you have staff, you have volunteers, you have everything. Election day happens, it's over.
Yeah.
100-0. And I tell people I basically just was a zombie for 2 weeks, and I woke up and I was like, okay, let me figure out what my life is now, right? And around that 2-week time frame or so is when I saw the job posting get sent to me by like multiple different people. The Austin History Center Association is looking for an executive director. And at that moment, I was just like, I will do anything and whatever I have to do to show my interest in this job and get out there, because this is it. This is the job I want. And it was the perfect merger of all of it, of the community involvement, of the political connections I'm so grateful to have gained throughout that campaign, from the tech sector leadership, everything. And so that was the moment immediately. Process takes a few months, right? It's for any executive hiring role. But I remember when I started in February of last year of 2025, and just to walk into that 1933 Austin History Center building, to walk into the 1979 John Henry Falk building, and see first off how amazing the History Center already is. Millions of documents, a dedicated staff of about 20 folks over there, archivists, community archivists, folks who are just really making our history and the documents that preserve it accessible. And then also to see, kind of like the city council situation, how many Austinites know about the Austin History Center?
Yeah.
How many folks know that this is an amazing resource, accessible to them, totally for free, part of the library system. And so I felt the love and appreciation of what was already there, and then just the strong ties of there is so much impact we can make in the community simply by just raising awareness of it. And that, it just hit me like a lightning bolt. Seeing the posting, first day starting, and the work is just that energizing still.
I mean, the consolation prize from the election turned out to be the grand prize for you.
I'm really grateful for it. Well, and then even, I'm grateful Councilmember Siegel, who won the race in District 7, he reached out a few weeks after the race too. He was like, hey, what do you think about being on planning commission? And I was like, man, I really hadn't, to be honest. He appointed me to planning commission, so I'm able to still do the policy making, especially land use development, some of our city's most important decisions. I'm honored to serve there and do the History Center Association, so I'm the luckiest guy in the world, man.
Well, over the last month or two, you've kind of been a newsmaker. I've seen you on local media. Austin Chronicle just had an article on the front page about the Austin History Center. This reopening of the Falk building is a big deal. It's almost a 50-year-old building, but it's undergone a big renovation, big changes.
That's right.
8 years of transition, is that right?
Yeah, so the building closed in 2017.
Okay.
When the beautiful new Central Library was built downtown. And at that point in time, it wasn't clear what it was going to be and how it was going to get there and where the money was going to come from. Like there was a lot to figure out. Just this really big historic building, a place that, the amount of people I run into who grew up in the Central Core who were like, that was my childhood library. Like this is the nostalgic thing. It had to become something for the community. And so frankly, again, right place, right time. It's an unbelievable stroke of luck that I'm the executive director at the time that this is all coming to pass, because not even 2017 when it was announced it was going to close years earlier, there's been well over a decade of work and advocacy of association board members and community members and library administration, and just I could sit here and rattle off probably close to 100 names of people who were directly involved in making sure that building first off became the Austin History Center, the new home for the library or for the municipal archives. And then also the actual nuts and bolts of securing the $14.5 million of bond funding. The actual nuts and bolts of looking over that renovation and making sure it was a world-class facility for the archives. It's just, I get to come in at the fun part. And the press was a great example of that. The press release kind of being designated as spokesperson for this effort. And then I'll tell you on a personal level, it was so fun because I spent a whole year just talking about myself. and seeing my name everywhere. And I think if you're someone who loves that experience, like maybe evaluate some things, because it never stopped being weird for me. I'm like, I don't want to see my name and face everywhere, but that's what you have to do running for office. So then to shift over into like spokesperson mode, it was so much fun.
I bet.
Be a geek about history, share as much credit as possible to the amazing, amazing folks who have been doing this years before I even knew the job would come open or start in it.
Yeah.
And just represent something, first and foremost, I think I said this in every interview, something that's going to outlive all of us. Like, when you and I are gone, when our kids are gone, when our grandkids are gone, the Austin History Center, the archives are still going to be there. So it was an honor.
Right before we jumped on this podcast, I mentioned that back in August I went to Pittsburgh. I brought it up in a different podcast as well. It was an interesting experience. It was a lot of old city, a lot of history, a lot of interesting things. And the Heinz Center, the History Museum for Pittsburgh, is really fascinating. They covered every decade. They talked about the medical or tech changes that they've made along the way, some of the important figures. And I was curious because I've not been to the Austin History Center. I planned to go right before this podcast, didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
We're going to meet up
we'll
soon.
Get you there.
We're going to get there. But I being dumb, I was in Pittsburgh and went, I don't really know what Austin has. And then all this kind of happened in the last few months. Tell me what it's like to walk in there, what it's like to visit, and what the point of this center when you want someone to walk away. What are they going to know more about Austin because of it?
Well, absolutely. I'll talk about the experience, but to first off validate what you're saying and just drive the point home. Austin doesn't have something like that, and we're building towards it.
Yes,
but frankly, it's something I don't want to say I'm embarrassed by, but just when I look at our peers in the state of Texas and other major cities, I mean, Austin is, by population, waffling between the 10th and 11th most populous city in America.
Yes.
We are not a small town anymore. It feels like we are, but we are not. And there are cities smaller than us that are running circles around us in terms of how much they're investing in their arts and cultures and museums and telling the stories of their cities.
That's right.
So, frankly, I think that's, I don't want to, embarrassing is a strong word, but I just look at it as like pretty much any Austinites going to agree we got to be doing more there. In the museums, in the arts and culture, and talking about our history. And the good news is, the Austin History Center, the archives and the quality of them, the documents, the information, frankly, the hard part of having all those millions of things that you need to tell the story, that's already done, right?
Yeah.
The archival work is an ongoing process, but there's an amazing staff doing fantastic work, wonderful volunteers. That part's already done. So what you'll see when you walk into the John Henry Falk building, the Austin History Center location there, first off, you'll walk in and you'll see a first floor with a full exhibit about the archival process and some really priceless Austin artifacts there already, right? Thing that folks may not realize is it's very professionally well done. All of that was done in-house. There's not some contractor or museum curator that came in for that. The Austin History archivists and exhibits managers, there's a wood shop there.
Really?
They literally constructed and put together this full exhibit, and it's just the first one.
Okay.
And just the first one in that space, the old Austin History Center building, there's opportunity to add some really exciting exhibits and community programming there as well. But they'll walk in today, they'll see that. Free, open, accessible to the public whenever the History Center's open. Then they can go up the second floor, go to the reading room, walk right up to the desk, check in, and make a research request. And people hear that, and it sounds like a formal kind of, do I need a doctorate? Do I need to have done exit? No, I have literally had a fifth grader on a tour there with his mom who was like, oh, I want to learn more about the creek behind my house. Walk up to the desk, make a request, and start digging through some amazing documents and historic photos and things and learn right about that. Got a favorite coffee shop? Curious, oh, I noticed the brickwork there seems kind of old. What was this? You can go and find the answer.
Really?
You can go and find all of that. I mean, the city's whole architectural archives are there. So new or old structures, building, land, whatever, you can find the answers there. And this is not a thing that's common in the archival space all the time. For instance, a lot of archives, even locally, even across the state, are by appointment only.
Yeah.
It
feels very there's a gatekeeper.
There's a wall there, right? Yeah. That's not the case here in Austin. The Austin History Center, the archivists want nothing more than people walking in off the street and saying, I'm curious about this. Anything.
Okay.
If it has something to do with Austin, you'll probably find something there. So the museum side of it, the exhibits and programming, we're expanding that. That's to come and grow past where it currently is. But today, the hard part's already done. The information's there.
That's beautiful. So if we talk about the vision plan, the biggest goals for the History Center in the next few years, what's next? After you just opened the Falk building, I'm like, what else? But
well, that's the thing. Now it's the fun part, right? We had the ribbon cutting, we had the celebration. Literally tomorrow, we're having the first kickoff meeting for our vision plan process. So the association, we're working with Steinberg Hart Architects, MGMP. It's a museum consulting firm. And then the city also has a contract in collaboration with all this with McKinney York Architects. We're all getting together and we're figuring out, hey, what does the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of this look like? The main thing is the physical space. So the 1933 building, that is Austin's first permanent public library building, period, in our history. And so beautiful building, unbelievably historically relevant.
Where's it located in Austin?
9th and Guadalupe.
9th and Guadalupe, and where's Falk located?
Right next door.
Right next door. So
right next door,
okay.
Across a parking lot.
Perfect. Okay.
And right next to Woldridge Square Park, which is super historic. Sure. Next to the Heman Sweat Courthouse, the Bremond Block. It's really, I would say, an area of untapped potential, somewhat of a dead zone downtown, but there is so much history there.
Yeah.
And we're talking stuff that's on the National Historic Register. It's staying there. So we can really maximize the development of that area of downtown alongside that sort of historic core. That 1933 building, I think a lot of people walk in, they're like, this would be a hell of a museum. This would be a wonderful public community space. Mm-hmm. So there are temporary plans there that I can't talk about just yet, but are exciting and will come to pass in 2026.
Excellent. Soon.
Yeah. In the coming months and maybe let's say 1 to 2 years, right? To reopen that building to the public with some really cool stuff. Can't talk too much about it yet. But then long term, the exterior of the building's in a good place. It's had a bunch of renovations about 5-6 years ago. The interior, it's a building from 1933. Plumbing, HVAC, some of the floors, stuff. There's work to do. So we know we're going to go after either bond monies, historic tax credits, capital campaign through our nonprofit, some combination of those funding sources. And really we're talking like hopefully early, maybe mid-2030s, start turning that into the next phase of what it is for the public. And the people want museums.
The people want museums.
The people want
Quoted.
museums.
Perfect. Well, I hope everyone's enjoying this conversation with Adam Powell. We're about to go to break. We'll be back soon. We're going to talk a little bit about the future as well as learn a little bit more about your secret hidden gems of Austin. So come right back to the Austin Eras podcast. Adam Powell, the Executive Director of the Austin History Center.
In every episode of Austin Eras, we uncover the city's history, vibrant present, and bold future. Just like Austin, your financial journey is a story worth crafting. At Collective Advisors, led by Adam Flagg, Managing Partner, Senior Wealth Advisor, and Certified Financial Planner Professional, your story is in skilled hands. From investments to retirement planning, Adam and his team bring together a collective of dependable professionals to help you build, maintain, and enjoy financial security. Start your financial legacy today at collectiveadvisors.com or call 512-467-1923. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
And we're back with Adam Powell, the Executive Director of the Austin History Center Association, and we're going to dive into the Good Hang segment. This is we're going to find out what you really love and suggest for Austinites that are listening to the show. So what's a weird or quirky Austin tradition that you hope never fades?
My number one answer on this would be Trail of Lights and everything associated with it. Which might not feel weird or quirky, but the history of it. You go back to the 70s when it started, or maybe late 60s. It was just like a little city-owned celebration that turned into this big thing.
Okay.
It's unique. It's special. I don't ever want to go anywhere.
Love it. What's an album or artist that will always remind you of Austin?
I'm going to say Sublime's last studio album before the lead singer, Brad Knoll, died.
Yeah.
It was recorded in Austin.
Was it?
Yeah, at Arlen Studios, which shout out to Will and Noel Bridges, who own that spot and so many other great local spots now. It was recorded in Austin. So songs like Santeria that everybody's heard, What I've Got, like that was recorded here in Austin, Texas. And Sublime is just a core nostalgic band for me.
I love it. That's a clip. We're putting that out there. Santeria, that is amazing.
Okay. An Austin, Texas original album.
Who knew?
Absolutely.
If you have a guest visiting Austin for 36 hours, where are you taking them?
Okay. This is the question I'm most nervous about. I was saying this right before we hopped back on, but we can talk about professional, career, but when you get to like restaurants and activities, people are ready to fight you. So
always.
I'd say number one thing, especially if they haven't been to Austin, but even if they have, downtown Central Library.
Yeah.
Take them there. Take them to the rooftop. They just reopened the food space in there with Cafe Creme. Real solid spot. Spend an hour or two there and just explore that beautiful space. Outside of Central Library, I'd say District Kitchen. Love that restaurant. Great food. It impresses my in-laws. Don't impress anyone you take there, but still laid back.
Yeah.
Relatively easy to get a reservation at. I think I'm always big on just take someone to the type of activity that they want to go to, right? So somebody comes into town, if they share my love of climbing, take them to Mesa Rim, world-class climbing gym that I'm a regular at and love. I mean, they do Olympic team trials there, so I'm kind of big at like, hey, if they want to climb, if they want to do something neat, like, let's go do something like that. And then something I would love to do with most folks, and especially if it's just me showing them around and one other person, take them on a bike ride along Shoal Creek. Go to some different local businesses throughout that process. They can hop on my wife's bike and it'll be a good time.
Shoal Creek is like the ideal place to take a bike ride.
It is. Perfect. It is. And again, I don't want to publicize my neighborhood too much, right? and make everybody want to move there. But if folks know about Allendale, Crestview, Brentwood, North Shoal Creek is the spot to be at. I love it.
All right. If you could have dinner with any Austinite, living or dead, who would it be and why?
The short answer is Reverend Jacob Fontaine. And the short version of that would be just give him a Google.
Okay.
The slightly longer version is Reverend Jacob Fontaine, to me, is like number one on my Mount Rushmore of Black Austinites, Black Austin leaders. He founded one of the first Black newspapers this side of Mississippi, and the Gold Dollar newspaper. He was an individual who was formerly enslaved, but a faith leader, ran his own congregation here in Austin, and was a community organizer to the highest order. Local historians agree he was key to getting the University of Texas here in the city of Austin by organizing the Black vote at that period in Reconstruction, where Black men could vote with great difficulty. They could do it. He organized the Black community to vote for the University of Texas to be in Austin on the statewide ballot campaign, which very likely turned the tide in that election. So Reverend Jacob Fontaine, if I could sit down with that guy, he's my hero.
I love it. I love it. Who's a leader in Austin currently that you really look up to and feel they're doing great things for our city?
Oh, there's almost too many to pick from.
Doesn't have to be political. It could be a business leader. It could be anyone. So I don't want to put you too hard on the spot.
That's fair. I'm gonna give a shout out to another Austin Eras podcast guest, Jose Velasquez.
There you go.
Jose Velasquez. First off, he's just a great guy.
Yes.
And I think his focus on accessibility as a leader, like he does great policy work, he does great votes, but he's a guy, and people think I'm joking when I say this, but I'm like, no, you send that guy an email, you're one of his constituents, he will get a one-on-one coffee with you and just listen.
Yeah.
And that is something you don't see in elected leadership often. Respect the hell out of him.
I love that. I was totally impressed by him. I barely knew who he was until he came on the podcast, and I was shocked at just how down to earth he is and how he wants to be a servant leader for Austin. So
he's amazing.
He's also a huge Cowboys fan.
And nobody's perfect.
You're a huge Packers fan. You recently went to your first ever Packers game in person at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin to start the 2025 season. Why the Packers? How did this happen?
It's on the arbitrary side, but I like to remind folks, Austin does not have a professional football team.
We don't.
Not excepting UT. Grew up a UT fan. My parents didn't care about the NFL at all. But I've been a lifelong big football guy. So I honestly picked the Packers because I think I did Wisconsin for a state fair in elementary school.
Okay.
I love cheese. And then when I tuned into their games, Brett Favre was like the most electric player of all time to me.
Yeah.
Never knew what that guy was going to do. Gunslinger of gunslingers. So I've been a Packers fan as long as I can remember. And had the opportunity to buy stock in the team during their last sale. So I'm an owner. I can say I could say we're doing good or we aren't doing good.
Oh my gosh.
Because I own 0.00019% of the Green Bay Packers. And my wife, she's just the absolute best. It's been a lifelong dream to go to Lambeau Field. We made a whole trip of it, spent time in Milwaukee, toured the stadium with Pro Football Hall of Famer Leroy Butler.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing. And then saw the Packers beat the Lions for the first time this season. They did it again, too. So
my Bears, unfortunately, lost to the Lions twice this season. And yet the Packers and Bears are going to be fighting here soon. So this is not timely for the podcast because it will already have happened. But any predictions on score for Bears-Packers playoff game?
Packers by 1 million.
1 million? Okay. I'm not even going to go there. All right. So last question for the kind of good hang segment is, where do you go when you want to decompress in Austin?
For me, it's coffee shops.
Yeah.
And I am a total coffee snob. So I'll shout out like 4 or 5 spots that, if you haven't gone to these spots, you got to go. One that I'm loving right now down the street is Flora Coffee. It's in a yoga studio. It's low key. They make some unbelievable pour-overs and signature espresso drinks, roast their own beans. They do great stuff. If I'm sitting down reading a book for a few hours or doing work at a cafe, in fact, after this, very likely I'm going to go to this spot, Epoch Coffee.
Yeah.
Any of their locations are great. Again, North Shoal Creek biased. The one on Anderson Lane is fantastic. They have a pond right out back. You can sit right next to it. I had my campaign launch there. I love those guys. I'll also say Violet Crown Wine and Coffee Bar. I don't drink, so I only do the coffee part. Great spot. Again, really, really high quality beans. Last one I'll shout out, Pershing East used to be the Greater Good spot.
Okay.
Really fantastic East Austin spot. And then Clergy and Praxis and Proud Mary and so many others. Austin Austin is a great coffee city, so I'm not much of a nightlife guy. I don't drink, but you will catch me at a coffee shop.
Love it. Now I want to go a little bit to the present and future for you. This whole thing, we talked a little bit about it, but you somehow gained a following on TikTok. This big thing. I'm old, so I have Instagram, and that's about it.
Trust me, I feel the same way.
But TikTok is really blown up in a lot of ways, and I think it's gone through different things. But I've watched these videos of you. You are standing on it, and you have like a green screen behind you. You're telling a story, and a picture pops up behind you, and you literally tell a story over the course of how long? How long are these videos typically?
Little as 2, maximum like 5 minutes.
2 to 5 minutes, and you just all of a sudden decided, hey, I'm going to tell a story. Like, how did this happen? And tell me about the success of what this has all been like for you. And you've had a lot of views.
It's been shocking. It really has. I mean, I vividly recall posting my first TikTok and telling my wife, I was like, if someone comments, that'd be amazing. Imagine if I got 1,000 views. Like that's what we were talking about. And I'm not being humble. That's what I expected. So the problem I was trying to solve was how much I hate my face and voice on video. And unfortunately for this podcast, I still truly hate them, but just maybe a little less. I've steeled myself against that feeling. So I just wanted to build the skill set. And I was already deep into researching Austin history. So actually, word of advice for people watching this who want to do content creation but feel it's intimidating. I'm not an expert, even a little. Like, I still just use my phone. I hold it up and do selfie video. The green screen background is just the filter. I do not have an actual green screen. I take screenshots on my phone, edit it in TikTok. That's all I do. That's it. The people are like, man, you're so good at social media. I'm like, I do this one thing. If you told me to edit it in another software or do something else, I would spontaneously combust. So I got into it just as a way to build the skill set. I posted about 5 videos that will never ever see the light of day again. Okay. But you just got to get out there and post.
Yeah.
And as soon as you see it played back to you, you'll realize very quickly, oh, okay, here's what I need to do. And then I remember the first videos on that I did that got some attention was the 1928 city plan in Austin and how Austin kind of became segregated, some modern impacts, real baseline level stuff. And when I saw the comments of people saying, I was born and raised in Austin like you, and I didn't know this, then I realized that people were waiting for something like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was exciting from that standpoint. So then I just took it wherever the rabbit hole took me. Anything from where'd those quarry lakes in North Austin come from, and do people scuba dive in there, to, foundational city planning stuff or the structure of our government. Just anything I thought was interesting, I'm like, let's go in and do it. And I was shocked at how terrible I was at predicting what people cared about or not. Videos I would put basically, minimal effort in, were quick to research and easy. I'm like, nobody's going to care about this. 300,000 views. Videos I would spend like 60, 70 hours researching, post like 1,000 views. You just never know. So,
well, you mentioned Reverend Jacob Fontaine, which leads me to the next question, which is, what's one story or moment in Austin's past that people don't know but should? That was a great lesson. What else do you have?
I would just say, I'll say one large theme about Austin, which is the theme of Austin being like the most unlikely major city ever. I really think, like, in the world. This is a city that, think about other places. You mentioned Pittsburgh earlier, right? A trade hub, right? Like, it has
three rivers coming together.
3 rivers coming together. Humans throughout our history just tend to be in those places, right? I don't know about y'all, but you can't exactly kayak or get down Lady Bird Lake and get out to the ocean. Like, Austin is a very, very arbitrary city. It was founded just to be the state capital, ignoring the fact that it was, already inhabited by folks, that it was mostly untamed wilderness, ultra flood prone, not always the easiest to farm in the hill country, to say the least. This is not a place that 1 million people should have ended up in. And I think that's what makes it so special. There's so many instances throughout Austin's history where if something went slightly different, we would not have been a major city. We were not guaranteed to be the state capital, but instances like the Texas Archives War, when literally Austinites, fired a cannon shot and made sure that the archives of the Republic of Texas didn't leave the city. Okay, we saved the capital. Bullet dodged. University of Texas coming here. Like I mentioned earlier, this was not a guarantee that we would win that statewide election. Imagine Austin without the University of Texas. Or, Houston and Tillotson combining. Imagine that not being there. Saying that, like, there's so many of these things that could have not happened. And then I'll wrap it up in one story that I think is maybe one of the moments that set a precedent for Austin's growth and expansion, was the 1900 flood. So Austin had a granite dam that was built in, I believe, 1895 is when it came online. This created Austin Energy, created Austin Water, powered the moon towers. And the vision was, build this dam as a public utility, give electricity and water to the residents. Then in 1900, a flood happened, killed dozens of people, and destroyed the dam. And that dam didn't get rebuilt for decades afterwards until the modern Tom Miller Dam. So at that point in time, it would have been the obvious decision to privatize energy and water. And that's what the city was considering. And when you look back through the documents in that point in time, in the early 20th century, it looked like that's just what the city leaders should have done fiscally. But they didn't. They ate the debt. They said, no, we want to own the public utility. We'll rent privately now. And then when you look at Austin's modern budget and how much of a revenue driver Austin Energy and Austin Water is, like, our city literally couldn't exist without those publicly owned utilities in the way that we do today. And if the city council and mayor at the time did what was the obvious thing, I don't think Austin ends up becoming a city of 1 million people.
There's something really unique about Austin. It feels so magnetic, creative, charismatic. There's almost like a pull, an energy that you can't describe that pulls people here. And I think that's part of the magic of this podcast is the same kind of idea as the people that are on the show. I think that same idea, the same ingenuity is still here.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's changed. I'm curious, though, my next question is, how do we connect younger Austinites, new transplants, and really connect them to the city's past? How can you do that, whether it's social media, whether it's the Austin History Center Association? How can we do that here in Austin?
I think it's the simplest answer is fostering curiosity, dropping in the seeds of local history, because they will grow. I've seen people who will tell me up and down they do not care about history when you say, hey, why does the street that you live on, why is it named that? Why does your house exist there? Why did this neighborhood come about? When we ask these questions and build that into our word of mouth throughout the community, that's step number one. Step number two is definitely supporting the Austin History Center, and by the same token, our nonprofit, the association. But I mean, legitimately, I think I hear a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of negativity about old Austin's dying and we're losing parts of what makes Austin Austin. And I agree with you. I don't feel that. That ingenuity, that can-do, that creativity, the arts, the culture, it's changed, but it's all still here. That's a core part of what Austin is. And more importantly, the hope I will never let go of, the optimism I'll never let go of, is that people want to know about old Austin. People want to know about the past. So, frankly, it's an easy problem to solve to me, because the hard part of people caring, people giving a crap, is already done. And for me, I mean, I hope I'm, through my work, a link in the chain of many, 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 many links to just connect folks with what they already want. People want to know this. And why wouldn't they? Austin's the best city in the world.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. I'll finish with one last question, which is, I think when we look back at history, it sometimes helps predict the future. Mm-hmm. And I'm not asking you to be Nostradamus here for Austin, but I think I will ask the question, from the lessons and the knowledge you have about the history of where we've been, where we are today, where do you see Austin in 20 years? Where do you see the future of Austin going, and what changes will we see as Austinites in the coming decades?
That is a great question. I think when I think of Austin in the next 20 years, I think the growth, we should not expect for it to slow down, right? I've heard various arguments that you could look at this indicator and this, and we're due for a slow, but I think the responsible thing for us to do as a community is expect and plan for and accommodate that growth. When people want to move here, which they always will, this is the best city in the world, biased, but I believe it. When people want to move here, they're going to move here, right? The choice that we have as a community, and again, from a policy-making governance standpoint, is are we welcoming them or not? Are we building a city that welcomes the folks who want to be here? And so I don't think we've always made the right choice on that front in the past. I think we're doing better now. But 20 years in the future, I see growth, right? And then I also see some things that, for lack of a better term, we kind of got to put our big boy pants on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We talked earlier about the demand for museums. Houston has an amazing museum district.
They do.
That the community at large has fully invested in. Dallas. God, I do not like Dallas at all. Dallas is running circles around us in museums. And it's not because we don't have history and stories and art and culture and experts who can curate and run these things. All of that's here in Austin already. That is not at a shortage. We need the community to buy in and invest in this. And I firmly believe in 20 years, we're going to be sitting here looking at some world-class museums, through not just the History Center and where we're going, but throughout the community, and really cement Austin as an arts and culture destination even more than it currently is. So the future of Austin's bright. It's absolutely bright. We're going to grow, but we're going to welcome people, and we're going to preserve what Austin is. And the secret everyone, I hope, can learn, the secret I hope everyone will learn over the coming years is that Austin never died. Old Austin didn't go anywhere. We're still here. We're still special.
We're still evolving.
That's
right. The story is still yet to be told. So, Adam Powell, thanks again for joining the show. He's the executive director of the Austin History Center Association. Make sure to follow us on Austin Eras. If you enjoyed this show, share with your friends. And find us on your favorite platform. And you can check out our guest work at austinhistory.org. And if you have a future guest suggestion for us at Austin Eras, drop me a note at Adam@austinaeras.com, or behind the screen, Mel Martin, mel@austinaeras.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Austin Eras, featuring Adam Flagg, is brought to you by Collective Advisors. Collective Advisors offers investment advisory services through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on Austin Eras are not affiliates of CWM LLC, and opinions expressed by guests may not reflect those of CWM LLC. This show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal, tax, or other professional advice. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a qualified professional.